Imagine that, trying to build a business on the moon and having it judged by a professor who's from NASA. So that's the kind of experiences that we'd want to curate for our students.
We only take components of the CTC which will be given to the student in the first year itself. So a lot of B schools maybe, and again, nothing's right or wrong, it's just different ways of reporting. A lot of B schools, they take the 4 years of ESOPs, which might be vesting over 4 different years, to be part of the first year CTC while calculating the average CTC.
So I feel with education, what we felt, at least when we're creating Masters Union, we tried to map what was the current output of engineering and business colleges and how contemporary the workforce was getting. The skills that you had to acquire to be at a contemporary tech firm or a marketing firm or a startup, we felt that the industry was far outpacing what education was delivering. So our focus is to teach students how to learn business by running business. That's what we wanted to create. So when we're looking for our first batch, we were really looking for the first prime movers, right? The mavericks or the risk takers. They didn't have any placement report to go off on, or they didn't have any numbers to go off on, like our recent cohorts that have joined and have applied. So what we really looked for is that level of demonstrable leadership potential that they showcase, along with extremely being intellectually curious about different things.
Whatever is taught in an MBA, I personally think we can also learn from YouTube. But I think the most important factor here was the network that we were able to build, right? So with the various sort of CXOs that came in, the sort of profiles of masters that we had coming in to teach us, I think that was something that I felt I learned a lot from.
First of all, I feel in my journey in general, I felt that I've been an entrepreneur first, I have done business first, and then I came to learn. So that was one of the things that I always thought. So there were some ways I was thinking the business is run. But after attending classes from masters, I just realized that, oh my God, I think that is the reason why it failed, maybe.
In terms of the kind of faculty that we have at Masters Union, we have professors or masters in residence, that we like to call them, who are here on campus and available for the students full time. See, we feel that there's certain fundamental concepts of business strategy, marketing, economics, consumer behavior, let's say multiple things that they need to be very, very strongly grounded in. You need to have a professor to go back to consistently and talk one-on-one. But on top of these professors or masters in residence, each of their courses and further courses are supplemented with masters that we're calling in from outside. So let me take the example of Manoj Kohli, for example. He's someone who headed Airtel before, and his course talks about taking Airtel from 20 lakh to 20 crore customers. When he comes into class, he's not someone who's going to be teaching you the basics of here's how marketing is done or here's Porter's 5 forces or something. He expects that the students know about that. His class is more storytelling, right? They'll give you the insights of how do you scale something from 20 lakhs to 20 crore customers. There'll be pitfalls of his story. There'll be the successes of his story. There'll be things that he did correctly, that work that he would recommend to our classroom. So those kinds of experiences from such leaders are invaluable to have. Or recently we hosted, for example, Dr. Edward Rogers, who is the ex-chief learning officer or chief knowledge officer of NASA. And he came in here and taught a class on complexity and the art of managing complexity. And his outcome in terms of a final project was for students to build a business on the moon. And that's how he judged whether his outcomes or whether the students have actually mapped that art of managing complexity and were able to apply it in a business scenario in that context. So imagine that, trying to build a business on the moon and having it judged by a professor who's from NASA. So that's the kind of experiences that we'd want to curate for our students.
So if you'll look at the student journey, one, of course, there's an academic journey that is, very aggressive, very hands-on, very high-quality pedagogy. But equally, from the very beginning, when the student joins in, there's an equally aggressive placement preparation journey that begins when the student joins in. And there are tasks that are there every week, every month. There are town halls that are happening every month. Then we have resume sessions with students. We have one-on-one mentoring sessions with the students. Then we have practicums that we've introduced that, if a student who is not from, say, the product management domain and he wants to transition into it, then we have someone like a VP of product of, say, Spinny or VP of product of Tootsie, who comes and takes a dedicated 5 to 10 hour non-credited course only to teach him that, how do you get placement ready, how do you develop your portfolio, what kind of interview questions to expect, etc. Then before any interview that is actually lined up.
So in my case, initial companies that came to MU was Cred, and this particular role, I had actually done a little work in the domain that I was being hired for previously at previous organizations that I was working at. So that helped me go up there, give my interview, and at least grab the internship for the initial part.
So in terms of the companies that have come in, we've continued to see all of your lifestyle, like all the companies that have been coming, BCG, Bain, McKinsey, these have continued to come in the first 2 years. We had ThowCentric that got added. We had someone go to Accenture this time. Then a lot of startups have come in, and again, we take a lot of pride that our students are in the chief of staff roles for companies like Ather, in companies like Zopper. We have a lot of students who got into companies like Razorpay. Then we have people in Cred, a huge mix of companies. And one company that I was also super excited that we were able to bring in was Zerodha, because if you hear Nitin Kamath and he's spoken about this, that he does not believe in the concept of higher education, does not believe in hiring students from MBA schools, and yet he was the chief guest of our first convocation, and he was also the one who recruited the first ever MBA that they have brought in from the campus from Masters Union. And it's a very fond story of someone who did not believe in the institution of higher education, probably because of the way it was delivered, to actually being the chief guest and then getting someone from us. And that probably happened because we have this, we have the largest student-led investment fund, where there's a team of students who completely manage the asset, and that's how they get very hands-on learning.
So that was one of the major reasons why I chose MU. Of course, during the time period when we applied, we did not have any of the placement reports at our disposal to go and reflect back on, or have a sense of what kind of job opportunity that might come to the campus. But I think the risks that we took played out quite well. So right after Masters Union, from the time I was here, I was pretty clear in my head, okay, I want to go to one particular company, which is Razorpay. I want to work with people who are there in the founding team and the founders. So right now, I got an opportunity with Razorpay in the month of March, joined them as an intern, successfully converted the internship opportunity into a pre-placement offer. And since then, I have stayed back with them, and I'm working there as a program manager in business and strategy vertical.
A fresher coming into an MBA is a complete different experience altogether, because you feel intimidated by the fact that there would be people coming from all sorts of experiences. So that's what scares you. So I think coming and doing my masters here has in a way expanded how my mindset used to be previously. I think about a lot of things now in a different way. I met a lot of great people here, especially the one thing that I recommend freshers, and I recommended to the new batch here as well, was that don't get scared by the fact that you're going to meet people who are coming with a lot of experience than you. Just be excited that you get to be in a space where you get to learn from all these people.
So I think the numbers have continued to grow. My favorite number is definitely the fact that the ROI, if I look at it, like the pre-MBA salary versus the post-MBA salary jump, is a 4x, which I said earlier also. Now, what's interesting is that if you think of this jump without an MBA, and if you're continuing in your job and you're growing in an organic way, this would easily be a 5 to 6 year journey or more, depending on which company you're in. So that is one number that I'm personally very proud of. The percentage change in the highest CTC between the first cohort versus second cohort, that's almost, the first cohort was at 45, and at this cohort it was 64-ish something. So again, the jump that has come up, and I think the percentage would probably be around some 50%. So that jump is again very, very high. The median 80% students, again, there's a 17% jump between the two cohorts, and the absolute average CTC that we have is 33.1 lakh. So the numbers have consistently gone up where we are. I think the team is already very proactive in ensuring that the placement numbers are fully audited by Brickworks, which is the same auditor that your IIM Ahmedabad uses. So that was done because, as a new age business school, which is in the first year of operations, which has just broken too many barriers in just one go, we wanted to be double sure, triple sure. Now, in terms of the calculation behind that number, and again for transparency, we only take components of the CTC which will be given to the student in the first year itself. So a lot of B schools maybe, and again, nothing's right or wrong, it's just different ways of reporting. A lot of B schools, they take the 4 years of ESOPs, which might be vesting over 4 different years, to be part of the first year CTC while calculating the average CTC. However, as per Brickworks requirement also, and as per our consistency also, we only take anything that has been committed for the very first year. So any ESOP that is vesting after the first year is not part of your CTC. And despite all of that, our numbers spoke for themselves.
We feel our outcomes are organized into a push, pivot, and pilot structure. Push would be someone who wants to graduate and get out with a higher hierarchy than they've then come in. A pivot would be someone who wants to change their jobs completely or domains completely. Could be digital marketing to management consulting. And a pilot, and very interestingly for us, we want to create a lot of entrepreneurs and a lot of companies that come out from Masters Union. As I said, 10% of our founding cohort raised VC funding. And we're looking at a similar trend for our second and third cohort going forward as well. So we really want to be a space where entrepreneurs can come, flourish, find co-founders, incubate and accelerate their startups and ideas, and really take it to the next level.
So I think we've continued to attract very high quality students who are hustlers, who have high ownership, who are willing to get their hands dirty onto campus. And that would be my vision, right? That to create a DNA of students who, when they go out into the world, they're ready to create big impact, they're ready to think really large.